Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics on Channels Television. I'm Millicent Walker. On the news this hour, disappointment for Imo State as President Muhammadu Buhari's visit is put on hold. The governors accused of feeding on local government funds as condemnations continue over position of Nigeria Governors Forum on the NFIU guidelines. And also still on insecurity in the country, cultism, kidnapping, they remain a challenge. We'll bring you more on those stories. Welcome everyone to the program. We kick off with the scheduled visit of the president to Imo State. Well, it's a big disappointment for the government and citizens of Imo State as they had rolled out the red carpet to receive the president. But he is still in Saudi Arabia where he is performing the lesser Hajj. Now, the governor, Rescheduled, had put together an itinerary for the president's visit and he was expected to commission some key projects executed by the administration. We'll be getting in touch with our correspondent later on the mood in Imo State. But last night, the President, Muhammadu Buhari, shared the iftar meal with the Emir of Kazure, Dr. Najib Hussaini Adamu, and also the national leader of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Mr. Bola Ahmed Tinubu, at the breaking of Ramadan fast in Mecca, Saudi Arabia on Monday. Also present was the Sultan of Sokoto, Saad Abubakar II, and also the president's wife, Mrs. Aisha Wari. Nigeria's economy will soon enjoy a steady growth. That's according to the Minister of Budget and Planning, Mr. Udoma. He told journalists in Abuja that the next 4 years of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration will witness a steady growth going by the foundation laid. Take a listen.
This is the strongest first quarter performance since 2015. And the Federal Executive Council is most encouraged by the fact that growth continues to be driven by the non-oil sector. The nation should therefore expect a faster growth rate as the incoming cabinet continues to intensify work on the implementation of the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan.
Well, no doubt the nation's economy has gone through some twists and turns over the years, from recession and now on the process of recovery. And according to the Minister of Budget and National Planning, the economic trajectory of the country for the next 4 years is looking bright. Well, joining me on Lunchtime Politics is Dr. Alaba Olusemore. We'd like to thank you for joining us on the program. Now, the Minister is giving an indication that the next 4 years, the next tenure of the President, that it will be brighter. But from what you know about Nigeria's economy, what's the real picture?
Sincerely speaking, until we solve the issue of insecurity, we may not have a significant growth or development in the country. Whether we like it or not, about half of the country is in crisis, insecurity problems, and gradually the thing is encroaching down to the southern part of the country. One time, Osun State governor was crying out that, some group of miscreants are in that state and they are like to cause mayhem. So really you find that unless and until we solve the issue of insecurity, we may not be able to, that's my hypothesis, not able to have a significant economic growth.
And are you putting that solution on the doorstep of Mr. President alone?
Of course, definitely. There's no any other, when he came in, everybody believed that being a former military general, able to have solutions to that problem. But my understanding is that this thing has actually gone beyond the confines of Nigeria. It's an international network. And that's why they find it very difficult. And it's not a conventional war that they are fighting. I also believe that even the military themselves, they appear to be a little bit confused about how to solve that problem. So really, the key factor that will determine whether we're going to make progress in the next 4 years is the issue of security.
But let's also not forget it's the same military that took us off, that moved some of the insurgents from Sambisa Forest, that got back some of the girls that were kidnapped.
We still have some of the girls that were kidnapped, yes, they were released. But many thousands thereafter have also been, they were popular because of the peculiar situation. They are college students. I believe that a number of people actually, they are still in activity right now. We are not near solving that problem of insecurity in the country. Sincerely speaking, you can't have growth and development without solving the issue of security. Again, the challenge, within even the ruling party, the intra-party crisis, again, may also stall economic growth. Once there's no unity amongst the political leaders, among the bureaucrats, you find that there may be any significant progress in the country.
So let's look at the policies and how they attribute to economic growth. How long do you think it will take Nigeria to get to its peak?
2019, there may not be any significant change, different from what we had last year. The reason is that the president will constitute his cabinet. It takes them some time before they actually settle down, and before we begin to see progress, maybe for 2020, 2021. Then, of course, by the time you get to 2022, you find it's going to be a different ballgame again. We're talking about the next, I think 2023, the next election.
Some would argue
so you find that actively, we may have models of growth between 2020 and 2021. By the time you get to maybe mid of 2022, we're talking about 2023 politics. And in Nigeria, politics actually determines what happens in the economy. So when you don't get the politics right, there can't be any economic progress.
So when you say politics, what exactly do you mean? And how does it really affect the economy?
I'm talking about party politics in Nigeria, electoral process, intra-party crisis. All of those issues can impact where the dominant issue is how to win the next election, not how to improve the economy. I mean by politics. People, what is politics? About power. People trying to actually acquire power for their own self-aggrandizement, not for the good of the people. Democracy is said to be government of the people for the people, but not in Nigeria. It's government of the people for the political leaders. Really, we have really a lot of challenges of leadership in our country. The head of state may mean well, but I believe that those who are around him actually is lieutenant. He has to be very careful in the choice of those who are going to work with him. And again, they should put the round pegs in round holes. Where you have, people who don't have economic background or banking background or business background, and they're actually managing, doing planning in the country, you find that you have some challenges.
So we should have more technocrats.
Yes, technocrats, exactly, in economic planning.
So looking at the roles of perhaps the state governments as well and local governments, how much role should they be bringing to the table for the overall economic growth? And there's also the issue of the IGR, and on one hand, and also the issue of the civil service pay package of 30,000 naira that they're faced with.
We're going to discuss that. Actually, it's one of the reasons that actually didn't determine what will happen in the Nigerian economy in 2019. Whether we like it or not, the organized labor may not have problem with paying wages. That's a 30,000 naira minimum wage. I reckon that there will be a lot of industrial crisis, lockouts, strikes. We may experience it immediately after inauguration of the new government in May 2019. You find that maybe the next 3 to 6 months, we'll be having industrial crisis in the country.
But can they avert that?
In economics, when you fix wage above the equilibrium, you find that the supply is greater than the demand, and you find that one way or the other, especially in the organized private sector, they will not be able to pay. And of course, even some state governments who are not able to pay their salaries unless they rationalize. That's the only way they can pay the wage. And it's a major issue that actually determines what will happen in the economy when there are work stoppages, for 2 to 3 months or 6 months, and there's a crisis. You can have an increase in our GDP.
Can they avert that come after May 29, Inauguration Day?
Well, the normal thing is that the labor also needs to be very careful. What do I mean by that is that they should not push the state governments too much. If they push them too much, you discover that nothing will happen in those states. Yeah, they'll be able to pay salaries, but there will not be any tangible capital expenditure.
So what should the government be doing to hit the ground running? What should they be doing?
Well, before that, I mean, they have done it in Osun State, for example. Whether we like it or not, there has been some rationalization. What I mean by that, they have to look at all their labor, the workers in the ministries and parastatals, those of them that are fit to work in those parastatals or ministries. They should remain. The number of people actually that are there that are just loafers. They are not contributing to the economy of some of these states.
The ghost workers.
It's from there, when they do a staff audit. By the time they do staff audit, a number of the staff will leave and they will be able to pay. Again, the issue of IGR. Yes, IGR is good, but I can also tell you that, again, when you have the citizens are actually impoverished, I said you are doing IGR, you find that you are more or less you are overtaxing people, right? And it can actually create, problem that actually you envisage within those states. So there's a limit to which you can increase an IGR when the ability to make more money is not there and you're overtaxing them. So that is my own challenge with the issue of increasing IGR. Yes, there are rich people who are actually having income within those states who need to be taxed. The unfortunate tragedy of Nigeria is that those who are able to pay tax or who are making easy money are not taxed.
Okay.
Recently, there was a report that to say that maybe from CBN that money circulating is 2 billion. I mean, how can you imagine that? In other words, they cannot track the money in circulation. A lot of people actually have this money outside the banking system.
All right, so all of this loophole should be blocked. We'd like to thank you so much, Dr. Alaba Olushimore, for joining us on the program.
Yeah, very much.
All right, well, the issue as well of the NFIU guideline with regards to what the NGF said, their position about the Constitution and what the NFIU had actually said. Well, we had a guest who joined our earlier breakfast program, legal practitioner George Eke, and here's what he had to say, his position on what the NGF's position is and also the NFIU.
The local governments don't even have their funds. Their staffs of funds. That's what takes us to even Section 162, which is the joint account story. Yep. The joint account story is actually the meat of this matter, in the sense that we expected that the Governors Forum was going to react in this manner. The reason is this: that joint account is very, very important to the governors. As a matter of fact, let me tell you, that is actually what attracts quite a number of people to contest for that position, because it is like a free fund. You see, the intendment of the Constitution, or the intendment of the drafters of the Constitution, was that these monies will be paid into this joint account, and the governors or the state government, in turn, will pass it to the local government, so that they can have this third-tier development and third-tier governance. Yeah. But it has not happened that way for quite some time now. If you notice, there have been only sole administrators and appointees in 80% of the time of quite a number of the states. They don't have elected local government. But the constitutional issue here and the legal issue is that you are not even supposed to pass on the funds to them if they are not democratically elected.
The Minister of Federal Capital Territory, Mr. Mohammed Bello, has charged the newly elected chairman of area councils to shun all acts of corruption and use public funds for the sole purpose for which they are intended. Mr. Bello gave this advice at the swearing-in ceremony. He warned them to resist the temptation of starting new projects and discontinue the uncompleted ones from their predecessors. And still to come on the program, security on the front burner. We talk to our correspondents on the situation in their states. Please join us again. Welcome back to the program. Now, here are some of your stories in brief. We begin with the governor-elect in Oyo State, Mr. Seyi Makinde, who has promised to run an all-inclusive government irrespective of party affiliation, tribe or class to ensure that development gets to the doorstep of all citizens. He made the promise at a Thanksgiving service at the Living Spring Chapel International in Ibadan, the state capital. Mr. Makinde also says he intends to run a transparent government that will guarantee security and economic safety of the people. Elsewhere, the Taraba State Governor, Darius Ishaku, has debunked rumors making the rounds in the state and on social media that he has a stroke. He cleared the air during the launch of the state's water sanitation and hygiene policy and declaration of state of emergency on wash, according to him. He only took a week-long leave, which is the first of his kind, he took since assumption of office in 2015. He said he is hale and hearty and urged those spreading false news about him to desist. Now, the Osun State Police Command today confirmed the abduction of 2 regular marshals of the Federal Road Safety Corps, FRSC, at Eri-Jesha area of Akure-Ilesha Highway in the state. Although the police is yet to give details, some family members alleged that the victim, simply identified as Abioye and Bayeguni, were traveling late in the afternoon on the road when the armed bandits intercepted the vehicles. In the meantime, the River State Governor, Nyesom Wike, and Police Commissioner are going tough on cultists, including traditional rulers who shield them. Well, let's go to our River State correspondent, Emmanuel Ere, who has more on that story.
Coming on the heels of the just concluded elections in River State, the headlines became frightening to some as suspected cultists went on rampage, killing some, and especially members of rival cult groups in some areas in the most gruesome manner, with criminality also gaining ground in some communities across the state. And after a series of strategic meetings between the government and security agencies, apparently they were left with no choice but to unleash comprehensive attack on the perpetrators and their gangs. And there is relief now as the operation goes on. And also following strong warnings from the government to traditional rulers and community leaders against getting involved in any cultist activities and acts that promote violence in their various communities. The hammer seemed to have come down on the Gbenemene Babe, a traditional ruler in one of the communities in Ogoniland, for alleged indictment, sending even stronger signals that neither the state government nor the security agencies will be sleeping over the issues of security, especially as the governor has tipped security as one of his top priorities in his second term. Security, by the way, that continues to be topical in national discussions.
Many thanks, Emmanuel Ray, there with the state government of Rivers talking tough on security and security in the state. Well, now let's take us back to the rescheduled visit of the president to Imo State. Our correspondent is live for us, Eyitope Kute from the capital, Owerri. Eyitope, good to see you. Tell us the mood of the cancelled visit and if there's a new date for the president's visit.
Well, good afternoon, Millicent. As of yesterday, last night, all was set for the arrival of the president of the country, Muhammadu Buhari, who is visiting Imo State today to commission some projects. And if you may allow me, I want to read from the press statement by the state government this morning on the rescheduled visit of Mr. President. This is a statement signed by the Chief Press Secretary to the State Governor, Sam Onwumadu, and it says, "We humbly wish to inform the general public and Imo people in particular that His Excellency the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, has not returned from Saudi Arabia, where he is at the moment with other Muslims from all parts of the world on pilgrimage. Against this backdrop of this development, the scheduled visit of the president to Imo State for the commissioning of some projects has been postponed. A new date for the visit will be made public in due course once the president comes back from Saudi Arabia. And right now I'm at one of the places, one of the projects where the president is meant to commission. And on my left, you can see this is the canopy where the guests are meant to sit down. And behind me is the building itself. That's the police headquarters built by the Okrocha-led administration in Imo State. And some other projects which the president is expected to commission is the mother and child hospital along Douglas Road, and also the 1,000-bed hospital along Douglas Road. But just this morning, the news filtered in that the president won't be coming again because he's still in Saudi Arabia. And we've not, up to now, we don't know yet if the government, if the president will still come for the commissioning this week. But a few minutes ago, there's still some news. We were not clear yet. The news is that the president might be in Owerri on Thursday for this commissioning.
A few days to May 29th. I'd like to thank you, Isa Kwekute, for the latest updates. Let's now take you to the National Assembly, where plenary may have started. We have our correspondents there, Larry Lasisi at the Green Chambers, the House of Representatives. Larry.
Well, Millicent, it's the first plenary session of the week, and with the other paper out, we can have an update or an outlook of what the lawmakers may be considering today. On the other paper, we have three committee reports that will be presented and laid before the House. We also have 2 motions slated for consideration. 5 bills are to be looked at, some for third reading and some for second reading. And 15 committee reports will also be considered in the committee of the whole. And that may just be some of the items that will be looked at. I'm sure you're aware they can still come up with different motions, maybe of urgent public importance, that could be brought on the floor. But that's just the outlook for now in the House of Representatives.
Let's also find out from the Senate, the Red Chambers. Our correspondent is there for us, Terry Kumi. Terry.
Well, hello, Millicent. As we speak, the Senate is meeting with the Minister of Health behind closed doors. The purpose of this meeting is to brief the Senate on the quality of health care at the nation's teaching hospitals. This follows the motion which was raised by a member 2 weeks ago querying the quality of health care at the nation's teaching hospitals. Now, we understand that the minister has just about 24 hours to stay in office, so the outcome of this meeting or its importance or what it will yield remains to be known. But then again, on the other paper, there's an interesting report that will be considered, and that's for the conference committee on conditions of service for National Assembly staff. Recall that last year there were quite a number of protests by staff of the National Assembly over what they described as poor conditions of service. So the National Assembly promised to look into that. That report will be considered on the floor of the Senate today. Also to be considered is a promissory note program and a bond issuance to settle inherited local debts and contractual obligations. This, we are guessing, is that of Kogi State, because Kogi State is the only state left that hasn't been considered. Last week, the Senate considered that of Bauchi and left out Kogi State. No explanation was given, but the Senate leader did urge the committee to please consider Kogi State. So that report will be presented today, and hopefully it's that of Kogi State. So that's the outlook from the Senate today. Back to you, Millicent.
All right, many thanks, Derek Kumi there, covering the affairs of the Red Chambers. And that's how we wrap things up. Keep watching Channels Television, your home for the news, for the latest updates and some of the stories, and of course, on our News on the Hour. Many thanks for watching. I'm Millicent Mwoga. I'll see you soon.